Hey folks, GHondo here, and welcome back to Captain of Industry. This is episode 73. Just before we talk about what we did last episode, I want to go over a couple little teensy things I did off camera. Very minor, so we'll do them real quick. Number one, I finally added some storage for corn, so my poor chickens will stop starving, which they did while I was off camera. It was bad. I also moved the research lab from up here to down here, and that gives us enough room. We might as well just do it. To put in more housing. We don't immediately need the workers, but we may later. Now, we were working yesterday on a nuclear facility. You'll notice this is a lot different. Well, maybe not a lot different, but there's a couple key differences. First and foremost, my original setup only had water coming in this pipe here. For every other building in the game, as far as I'm aware, it doesn't matter which input you put it in when it wants the same one. This one would not work unless there was water coming into this section of the building here, which I guess is an isolated tank even though it's the same building. So I had to add stuff in there, because I did run it, just for testing purposes, and it didn't do anything. This was running, but nothing was happening. There was never any steam coming out, nothing. And as soon as I added them, boom, they started working. Quite annoying. Number two, I added a balancer and an emergency offload for the high steam, because this is obviously going to run no matter what, and it shouldn't happen anyway, but if for whatever reason all the turbines can't keep up, that's some emergency offload. On the subject of turbines, I ripped out the low pressure ones and just put them on here directly, which makes a lot more sense. These actual turbines themselves can bring in mechanical power, so why waste it, right? So any leftover from here by the time the high pressure ones get to here, and I don't know how much there will be, if any, but any that's left over can simply be added to what this generates, and then it can finish it. If that's still not enough, we can always add more, and I just see, oopsies. Okay, well, I guess we're fixing that right quick. Apparently I missed a square. That would never have worked. Anyway, so if there is ever any ones that have too much pressure, we can always just add more of these after the fact. It's not a big deal. Don't take those parts real far, guys. You're bringing them right back. Can't believe I didn't notice that. Sitting here waiting for them to build all this, and that never would have worked. Anyway, the other thing I added, and this is very important, because otherwise it's Meltdown City. This cooling tower originally was just plunking its output back onto this line. This line is almost always full, which in turn means this cannot run, because it fills up its outputs. That in turn means no cooling. Bad. Very bad. So I've added 2 emergency gigantic storage for fluid, and they offload back onto the original input lines, which should always want water, or very close to. So as far as I'm concerned, we are ready to go. And technically that's not rebuilt yet, but that doesn't matter. If there's a little extra power, who cares? This might actually be able to go up higher. I'm just going to run it on the lowest setting for now, just so we can see it happen. And don't worry about these messages here. The coal mining is basically done, and I can't be bothered to add more because we have too much coal already. So at some point I might take those out entirely and reassign them just to get rid of that message, but it's very low priority. But anyway, we should very shortly be seeing actual steam coming out of here. And with that, we have turbines. Cooling is nice and stable. This should not move much, if at all, and it should definitely never get above this. If it ever gets above this, we're in big time trouble land. But anyway, these are now all running. Power is fantastic. Yeah, very nice. Very nice. Now I have no idea how fast we're going to be chewing through resource, like the actual uranium. Not a clue. I'll have to run it for quite a while to tell. The only one that might be kind of slow to replace is this one, because apparently we don't have a lot of rocks. And obviously we're using a lot of rocks down here to process into concrete. But anyway, that is where we are. So power is now delightful. And with that, I think we are safe to put in a few more mainframes. So that's the next thing we're going to do. I don't know how many. Let's start with 3 more. Once those are done, we can upgrade a bunch more of these assemblers, and I think that's going to be fantastic. Now, having done all that, what are we working on next? Well, I think the whole point of this was to get into the data center. I suppose technically the upgraded lab would be helpful too, but we're going to need the electronic 3s anyway, so we might as well get to a point where we can be producing them ourselves. So we're doing microchips next. Oh, and on the subject of research, the other thing was this one. I thought it was my UI just showing me like I couldn't see the button, but it's actually deliberately locked. It's one of those ones where you have to produce a bunch before you're allowed to move on. So that's all that was. I did put an on-screen message in yesterday's episode when I edited it, but I'm not sure if people actually watch them or if they just kind of listen in the background. So either way, I thought I should mention it. But yeah, that's where we go. Yeah, that last one's going to take forever to build, of course, because these are going to be taking all the purple parts. But that's fine. Housing came up nice and quick though, so that's very good. So we'll have tons and tons and tons of workers, which should last us a good long time. While we're watching all that happen, why don't we go back out and beat up some pirates. Are there any 610s floating around we can take? Are there any left? I thought there were still a couple. Yeah, there's one. There you go. Gives you something to do. But yeah, when I was playing around yesterday, long before I fixed the cooling tower issue, and while I was still figuring out this part, I did try and actually run it to see if I could make it melt down, just to see what would happen, but I couldn't get to do it. It auto shuts down before it blows up, which I mean, it's good, but on the other hand, it was kind of disappointing. I wanted to see what would happen if it actually melted down. But anyway, you can see that this thing is how very easily keeping up, and because it has plenty of output, this will never back up. So I think this should all be absolutely fantastic. And of course this will be very scalable. We can always just pop this up if we need to. But I think we're going to be good for power for quite some time. Excellent. And some more electronics, thank you very much. Okay, we're not going to be able to continue along that chain. So we have one there we could do. And that might be it, actually. Yeah, I think we only have one more battle we can do until we get the next set of upgrades going. So. And I was looking at the microchip setup. This is going to be nasty. Like this part here, we already are producing the polysilicon. So this part will be easy. We just have to get a machine with some water. That part's peanuts. It's everything after that. These all use the same machine, or at least the same kind of machine. I guess you could have more than one of them, but they all use the same machine, and there's 12 steps. And then finally, just a normal assembler at the end. That part will be fine. But so I don't really know if I want to put in 12 of these machines, or if I just want to do, one or two and then just kind of push the stuff back and forth. I really don't know. Because the actual silicon creation was up here somewhere. I don't actually remember where now. I think it was you, right? Yeah, silicon's up here. So this part is fine, and this machine is not running at full power anyway, so we can definitely take some silicon off it. That's no problem at all. I just don't know what to do after that. I guess it'll depend on how big those silicon machines are. If they're huge, I'm probably only ever going to build one. Or if they're really small, I might try and put 12 of them in. And then just try and figure out some way to belt it all together. That could be... That's going to be exciting. Anyway, ship is repaired, so yeah, let's go do that last battle while we still can. That'll be something. None of these are built yet. And I think I need to buy more bricks again. That was something I was doing quite a lot of, was buying bricks. Because we just don't have enough dirt being dug up. Just the way it happens where all our mining is, there isn't enough dirt. Especially given some of it's, you know, probably coming down here anyway, but either way, we just don't have enough dirt. So, and since we're using a ton of parts building all this, that meant quite a bit of wood got turned into brick. But that's fine. Okay, so nothing is even getting to here, so we didn't really need this many power generators from the low pressure ones. Okay. In fact, it doesn't even look like this one's doing much. Well, that could be just the flywheel is still spinning up. Oops. Thank you. Or maybe I do need to, you know, put this on power level 2 to make that be necessary, but either way, I'm just glad we got all this set up. Because this is very, very cool. The other thing I don't know is what we do with this stuff, but I might at some point need a second one of these. I mean, this is going to last quite a while, but obviously I'm going to need to have a backup for it at some point, unless we've gotten into the reprocessing stuff, and I'm assuming there will be further down the research chain some way of dealing with it, but obviously I've not looked that far. We're just going to melt a whole bunch of steel to repair. That's totally fine. Yeah, and all that time I was off camera yesterday, the diesel and hydrogen supplies were totally fine. And in fact, I don't think I ever got an alert from them. The only thing I actually got alerts for, other than the mining, was my chickens. And that's why I put that in there. So, it was actually pretty stable. I was quite happy with that. After all the trouble we'd had in previous episodes. Alright, so let's think about this silicon bit. And we should probably think about both scenarios. If it's scenario 1 where the machine is gigantic and I only want one of them, it's really quite easy. I just put them all these on and just make sure they're in the right order. Basically from bottom up, so it always runs in order. If, assuming though that these machines aren't crazy stupidly large, and I do in fact want quite a few of them, how are we going to belt all this? So it's clearly like stage to stage, and the inputs are different every time, like copper, acid, gold. It looks like acid used quite a bit. So that part at least is okay. But I'll need to make something up here for generating acid. Yeah, this is going to be a mess. That is going to be a mess. Okay. Well, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make today a shorter episode and let all this finish. So when we come in tomorrow, this stuff will all be done. And I'll probably do the upgrades of these off camera too, because that's nothing exciting. That's just a lot of waiting. And we'll make sure the research is done, and tomorrow we will try to figure out microchips. So apologies for the short episode, but I think this was already a very good one. We got nuclear up, so life is good. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment. And if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It really does help. Other than that, we'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. See ya.